The sentencing of the man who attacked 2 mosques in Christchurch began today. Brenton Tarrant has pleaded guilty to 51 charges of murder, 40 charges of attempted murder, and 1 charge of engaging in a terrorist act. Further details have emerged about the extensive planning the terrorist conducted before the attacks and what he planned to do if he wasn't stopped. Emotional victim impact statements were read out by victims, detailing the devastating impacts the attacks had on them and their community. Our reporter Logan Church is in Christchurch and filed this report, and just a warning, his story contains details that some people may find distressing.
528 days since those devastating attacks on March 15, the sentencing of the shooter is now underway. 29-year-old Australian Brenton Tarrant was led into the High Court in Christchurch this morning with his arms and legs in shackles. He was surrounded by security. He's pleaded guilty to 51 charges of murder, 40 charges of attempted murder, and 1 charge of engaging in a terrorist act. Security at the Christchurch Justice Precinct is tight. The road outside the main court entrance is blocked off. Armed police patrol the building's perimeter, as well as police dog units. Police snipers can also be seen on the roof. No chances are being taken. This morning, victims and relatives waited in a socially distanced line, let in one by one to be screened by security, as well as a thermal camera to check their temperature. Abdulaziz was in the Linwood Mosque when the gunman attacked. Before entering court today, he told reporters this day had been a long time coming.
We're looking forward for these days, actually, because we waited long enough for these days. We just wanted to close this chapter and move on with our life and move on.
Inside, victims and family fill 7 overflow courtrooms. Journalists fill another. More than 300 people from 15 different countries are also viewing via secure livestream. Crown Prosecutor Barnaby Hawes outlines the summary of facts for the court, 26 pages that detailed Tarrant's attacks.
51 people were killed as a direct result of the attacks, including women, men and children. 40 people suffered gunshot wounds ranging in severity, a significant number of whom required surgery. Some will suffer lifelong physical effects.
Prior to March 15, Tarrant gained layouts and information of the mosques online and flew a drone over the Al Noor Mosque. On the morning of, he left Dunedin and drove to Christchurch, carrying 6 firearms and more than 7,000 rounds of ammunition. He also had 4 modified petrol containers. His plan was to burn down the mosques. Just after 1:30, Tarrant arrived at Al Noor Mosque on Deans Ave, where about 190 people were worshipping for Friday prayers. Atta Aliyan was at the mosque when the gunman opened fire. He was one of 44 people who died at Al Noor Mosque, or not long after. His father, Muhammad Aliyan, who was also injured in the attacks, began his victim impact statement reciting a passage from the Quran. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Fighting back tears, Mr. Aliyan described the pain he felt burying his son and friends.
Burying one dead friend is heartbreaking. How about burying a one of a kind? A one of a kind that is my son, Atta, and 49 beloved brothers and sisters in one go. No words can describe what my heart experienced at that time and still experiencing. It is only the remembrance of Allah that keeps me going.
Atta Aliyan's mother, Masoon Salama, paid tribute to his son.
I constantly try to imagine how my beloved Atta felt at the moment of the attack, how he faced the shooter with his chest, armed only with his courage to protect others. What was in his mind when he realized he is departing this life to his last journey? How is life going to be without him being around?
She also spoke directly to Tarrant.
You took away not just the most amazing son, but the best father, husband, brother, friend, relative, neighbor, employer, team member, motivational speaker, and a pious Muslim. You terrorized the whole New Zealand and saddened the whole world. You killed your own humanity, and I don't think the world will forgive you for your horrible crime against humanity. You transgressed, and you thought you can break us. You failed miserably, we became more determined to hold tight to Islam.
This morning, Tarrant sat emotionless as the victim impact statements began. The court heard Tarrant drove over the body of one of his victims as he sped off from the mosque. Taj Kumran was also shot at the Al Noor Mosque. He told the court his recovery has been hard and painful, and exacerbated by dealing with ACC. Speaking through a translator, he says he couldn't even get help to get a taxi to the funeral.
On the day of my friend's burial, I had called 10 times or more to ACC to ask if they would help with a taxi to go from the hospital to my friend's funeral, and it was denied each time that I phoned. This was hugely frustrating for me and very disappointing at the time. I often think about this and wonder why I was so ignored by ACC on that terrible day.
Victim impact statements will be heard over the next 2 days, with a sentence expected later in the week. In Christchurch for Checkpoint, Logan Church.